Hi, everyone. You're watching episode 69 of Yield TV. Hey, welcome back. We are doing an early morning episode today of Yield TV because we have Tascha from Alpha Finance Labs joining us today. And we're going to be talking all about Alpha Finance's Homura V2. It is one of the leading platforms in DeFi. If you've ever used it, you know that it's for leveraged liquidity provisions, but you can also earn by lending tokens, which the leveraged LPs then borrow and earn ridiculous yields on. So super excited to talk to you again, Tascha. Welcome back to Yield TV. How are you doing?
Thank you. Doing well. Very busy with Alpha Homura V2. We're adding a lot of new features, new pools. So getting ready for those.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You guys have you've just released so much, and V2 is exciting. Like, I'm excited to show it off because it's one of those things where I've explained to friends, imagine that you are yield farming, but you can borrow at a lower rate than what you're actually earning in terms of yield. So it's, you're borrowing a little ETH, and then in return, let's say you're making, I don't know, 50, 60% annual off of that. And so the 10% that it costs to borrow with ETH is nothing in comparison. And then they're like, wait, is that real? You can do that? I'm like, yeah, you can do that. You don't have to go do it all manually. So we'll talk through how all of this works today. Just in case folks are new to Alpha Finance, and maybe if they don't know you, Tascha, can you tell us a bit about your background, how you got started co-founding Alpha Finance, and would love to learn, just about how you got into DeFi.
Sure. So I'm co-founder of Alpha Finance, and pretty much started with Nipun, who is also another co-founder and the CTO. Previously, I was the head of strategy at Band Protocol. Nipun was the CTO of another robotics company. And then before Band Protocol, I was a product manager at Tencent. And then before that, I came from a traditional finance background, pretty much in investment banking in San Francisco and then in London. So quite a number of different areas, from finance to tech to blockchain to now DeFi. And pretty much I have been interested in crypto and blockchain for a number of years and been trading. And when DeFi got into the picture and pretty much become the major use case of blockchain nowadays, that's when I really dig deeper into DeFi and pretty much started Alpha Finance to capture a lot of market gaps in DeFi, not just the product market gaps, but also solving innovative problems with an innovative solutions that not only just solve the problems, but also make sure that we are user-centric and putting the users first.
Tascha, when you got into crypto, did you get exposed to Bitcoin first, or was it Ethereum? Because I'm starting to meet more people that are talking about, oh yeah, I came into DeFi and Ethereum, and I'm like, oh really? That's so cool, because that was not true years ago, but a lot has changed. So, anyways, yeah, curious how you sort of went down that path of learning crypto.
Yeah, it was Bitcoin that I started. So I went to UC Berkeley. It's quite a crypto friendly and blockchain friendly space already. So a lot of people are already interested in the space, and that's how I got exposed to the whole industry. And then just joining different clubs and also reading a lot of different things online and just trying to learn more about this new technology.
Wow, I don't even want to ask you more questions without actually bringing up Homura V2, because I think end of day, that's what people are really excited to understand this. And I've gotten to play around with it quite a bit. I got to say, if you're a pro DeFi user already, I think you'll find it very simple to use. But I'm thinking about those that are maybe newer to the space. So would you be comfortable sharing your screen, or I can share mine, whatever you prefer?
Yeah, I can share my screen.
Awesome. Once you pull that up, I will share your screen, and yeah, we can talk through it. Oh, and reminder to everyone, we'll show this later. As you participate in Alpha Homura V2, we have support already for the interest-bearing tokens on Zapper. So if you have a Zapper dashboard, you can see all of your Ether, your USDC, your Tether, your DAI earning interest. And then we're going to get up those leveraged liquidity farms very soon. We're in the middle of it, hoping to get it out today, but not totally sure when it's going to be done. Awesome. Oh, and then I'll add yours. Just what window do you want to be on? I can just see it's on our window right now.
This window is fine. The one that we're on.
There we go. There we go. Perfect. All right. Should we start, Tascha, with actually you take it away. Just walk us through, and I'll ask questions as a user.
Okay. So let me just start with Alpha Homora V2 first, and then we're just gonna close it off with migrating from V1 to V2. V2 is a completely different UI from V1, so we're rebranding at the same time for the product itself. So now that you enter on the dashboard, you will see pretty much all the important things that you would need to open a leveraged positions. So think of Alpha Homora as one product where users can use in two ways. So one as a yield farmer, where you can open a leveraged yield farming positions. These are the pools right now, and we're going to support more pools. And then the other types of users that also can use Alpha Homora would be the lenders. So that's where the Earn tab would come in. So just keep in mind that there are two sides to use the products. And then I'm just going to focus on the leveraged yield farming first. So you can see here that this is actually different from V1 in a sense that we are supporting Uniswap, SushiSwap, Balancer, and Curve. So that means that the liquidity pools that we can support and offer the leverage on are a lot more than before. So if you go on V1 now, we have 43 pools now. So we are going to migrate all of these to V2 at the same time as adding a lot more pools from Balancer and Curve. So you would expect to see, quite a number of pools on V2. Wow. So that's the first main thing, right? The second major thing that's different between V1 and V2, and that's what I think a lot of users also like, is that you're not only limited to just borrowing ETH. You can see here that a lot of the pairs are USDC or even stablecoins pool. So what that means is you will be able to lend any of these assets and borrow any of these assets as well. So pretty much not limited to just ETH, right?
Right.
So that's
Tascha, when you were clicking into that, just a quick question. You do not need any proportion of the different tokens. You could start with all of, let's say in the Curve pool, you could start with all DAI or all USDC or all Tether, or a mix of all three.
Correct. Yeah. So the steps will just be, we also have this guide, which is really, really helpful. So you can enter this guide by clicking this doc here. Mm-hmm. And you can see, opening a farm, there are pretty much four main steps. So first you select the pool, and then after that you supply liquidity, which we also explain here that you don't need to have both equal value. You can supply all in one asset or a mix of both. And we will make sure that it's optimally swapped for you before you enter the position. And then the next step, this is where it gets a little complicated. We are working to make sure it's a bit more clear as well. So with this second step here, now that you have supplied the liquidity and now you're borrowing the tokens now, right? So you would select the leverage level on here. And then because on Alpha Homora V2, you can actually borrow multiple assets. So in this case, when it's DAI, ETH on Uniswap, you can actually borrow both DAI and ETH. So what that means is that now that you select 2.33, the borrow power here would have to be 100%. So what that means is if you sum these both, it would have to equal 100% to make sure that you get to that leverage that you want. So let's say you select 2.33x here, right? And you only click 50% of DAI, and that's all you do, and then you click next, you would not actually get 2.33. You would get less than 2.33. So, if you want to get 2.33, either you put 100% DAI or 100% ETH or 75% ETH, 25% DAI, depending on how much borrow power you have, then that will determine kind of what kind of mix of assets you can borrow as well.
So Tascha, the crucial step here is the leverage selection up above. That's where I would be thinking more about, like, what sort of risk do I want to take here? I know you all as a team are very meticulous about what amount of leverage you're willing to offer for different pairs, because you've talked to us before about this. The idea is, let's not offer 10x leverage on what's going to get people wrecked in a single day. So there's higher leverage on like asset stable coin pools, lower leverage on pools where there's two different tokens that could diverge in price. And so here, choose your leverage, but then below, you want to max out. You want to make sure that the two tokens there add up to 100% borrowing power. Otherwise, you've negated the point of putting 2.33x leverage up above.
Correct. Yep.
Awesome. Good. Thank you. I didn't know that. There we go. I've learned something today. Definitely was not using the maximum borrowing power. So cool.
Yep. And then pretty much the next step would just be confirm your strategy. So you would actually see the whole thing. You would get to understand the whole APYs that you would pay before you actually confirm. So this kind of walks you through what's going behind the scene of Alpha Homora V2.
Awesome. There we go. And right now the tokens that you can borrow are DAI, Ether, USDC, and Tether. Are those the four for all of V2, or are there any other assets coming that we should expect to be able to lend and borrow?
Yeah, so the assets that you would be able to borrow will kind of grow from here. This is not the limit number. And the assets that you would be able to lend will kind of be correlated to what borrowers can borrow. So if you want to know, what assets are applicable for borrow, you can go to the Earn tab, and then you can see that right now there are 4 assets that are supported on Earn, and that's because these are the 4 assets that users on leveraged farming pools can take leverage on. And then it will be more than this. So we're actually going to have IB YFI V2, IB DPI V2, IB SNX, and the list will grow from here. And all of these will get pretty high lending interest rate because a lot of the users are going to be borrowing these assets to yield farm.
Awesome. We're going to be adding lending hopefully in the coming months onto Zapper, and these IB ETH, the IB tokens, interest-bearing tokens, this is another thing that we'll be adding. So the idea is that you benefit here from this, this mechanism you all have set up with leverage liquidity farming. And so the other benefit of it is that one can lend at, I would argue, much higher interest rates. So this is awesome, Tascha. Yeah, I've participated in IB ETH and excited to put my stable coins to work with some of these other options.
Yeah, and IB ETH lending interest rate would grow higher than this also, because right now we just migrated the IB ETH alpha from V1. So that's why a lot of IB ETH from V1 actually, join V2. So the supply of ETH is a lot higher now. And then we're going to migrate more ETH-based pools. So that means that more of the ETH borrowers are going to be joining V2 soon. So the rate would also increase higher from here.
Yeah, normally I know we all tend to warn people, hey, like rates could be high and they're probably going to go lower. This is an example of one that's the opposite. The IB ETH V2 will rise because there's a lot of Ether and LPs that are still in V1. Do you happen to know what's the difference now? We've got about 150 million in V2. How much more needs to still migrate from V1?
Yeah, so V1 has about 800-ish million.
A lot.
So those all would have to migrate to V2.
Cool. Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, that's exciting. That's really exciting. So you all have, adding those two together then across V1 and V2, have you hit $1 billion?
Almost. So right now on DeFi Pulse, they have integrated V1 and V2 together. So this has already included both.
Wow, congrats. I remember when it was under 100 million being
I think it was around here cool. when we first talked.
Can you also flip it to Ether locked there? Just because the USD, there we go. That's beautiful. Anytime, if anyone's looking at DeFi Pulse, hey, I love total value locked in USD as well. But when you flip the switch to Ether and you see that Ether locked is going up, like that is a sign of healthy growth. That's the native token of Ethereum going to work on Alpha Homora. So wow, that's awesome, Tascha. Congrats on all this. Let's see. So we talked a bit about the leverage liquidity provisions for farming. We talked about the interest-bearing tokens for V2. What else should you call out?
One thing is it's very easy to manage your positions on V2. So actually on here, if you were to have a positions open, you would actually see a number of important information on the right-hand side. So let me just give you an example.
Very cool.
Like this. So if you have a number of positions, you can just, click the drop down and see the key important info on here. And then if you want to do anything more to these positions, then you can go to the Your Positions page. So if you go to Your Positions page, which I don't have any on this account, but if you have a position open, you would actually see a breakdown of positions. You can do a number of things to it, add, remove, close, harvest. So pretty much, pretty easy to manage your positions.
Very cool. Yeah. The new dashboard's really pretty. I mean, it's all it's very, very well done. Yeah, just congrats on all of this. It's very user friendly. Something we could talk maybe more about later is I did notice the pivot in branding. We have the wolf down here, so you were telling me there's the hashtag Alpha Wolves. But yeah, I would love to know what thinking has gone into the next evolution of the Alpha Finance Alpha Homora brand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think in V1, of course, we all love Harry Potter, and then we started to realize that we're going to build a number of products, and the theme Harry Potter may not apply for all the products that we're going to build. So that's why we're generalizing the theme a little bit while maintaining a little bit of Harry Potter over there. But for the whole Alpha Finance Lab project, our mascot is wolves. So Alpha Wolves is our team.
Hey, all the best projects use a lightning bolt, so we're all in it together there. That's really cool. I love it, the Homora reference. Okay, so let's see here. We covered managing positions, how to earn, which is purely lending. So anyone who wants to just lend, this does not involve any sort of leverage. You're the one that is enabling the leverage, which makes these IB tokens very powerful as yield earning mechanisms. And then wow, that sounded like a bunch of buzzword bullshit there. It's good for lending. It's really good for lending. And then, the alpha pools there. The one thing on the alpha pools, so there's a lot that is not here yet, just because you guys are in this migration right now. Anything else to call out there that is coming in the near future? I know there's a number of phases to the rollout of this new V2.
Yeah, so we're actually adding a number of pools on these V2, not only just migrating, but also just purely adding new pools on Curve, on Balancer that were not on V1 before. So that's definitely coming. We're also having several big features coming up next week. I'm not going to talk too much about that yet, but it will be pretty nice for lenders as well. Also, just in addition to this, that would be another feature that would be helping lenders to earn more. And then apart from that, we're also adding a support for LP tokens. So what that means is that when you supply liquidity to these pools, right, you don't have to only supply the underlying asset. You would be allowed to also supply the LP token directly. So if you already have provided liquidity to ETH, Uni, pool on Uniswap, then you can just take that LP token on here and then borrow more underlying assets to leverage on your positions.
That's cool. Just you're removing friction points. Someone who's already in that, like the uni ETH pool, why not make it easier for that person? They're just like one step away from being able to take advantage of all of this. Could you zoom in a sec on the trading fee, alpha APY, borrow APY? I just wanted to ask a few questions on that. So actually, if we look at the sushi swap, sushi ETH, the second one down, those four lines there. So when we talk about yield farming, those are the returns that include, in this case, you're earning the sushi token because you're a sushi swap LP. There's the trading fee, which is usual LP market making type fees. Alpha is actual alpha token rewards you're earning.
Yep. So that's a part of the liquidity mining program that we're running.
Cool.
So all the borrowers, in this case, those who open more than 1x leverage positions, would also be getting alpha APY.
Very cool. And so that's where we get that 167%. We're adding those, in case anyone, again, is very new to this, you're adding those three up. That's what you're earning. Then subtract the borrow APY for whatever you borrow there, ETH. One other question on that: the alpha rewards, you get those when you close your position, right?
No, so you would get that every Thursday. So that's when we do the Merkle drop. So it's also on here, liquidity mining program. You can claim by clicking on your wallet address, and then you would see the claimable alpha rewards, approximately how much is pending, and then when it's available for you to claim, then you can click claim button.
Cool. And Tascha, is that new for V2? Was that available in V1?
Yeah, that's also available on V1.
Oh my gosh, I totally missed that. Oh my gosh, I've got alpha rewards I need to claim. There we go. All right, something else I learned today. That's funny. It proves I haven't closed out a position, because I was like, well, I'll do it when we move to V2. So anyways, cool stuff. Wow. And then, I love the global analytics you guys have here now. So you can see 389 positions are opened, all the collateral, all that's been borrowed. Yeah, this is, if anyone else is, looking to build a new DeFi application protocol, this is the sort of stuff I think that gets people's attention. It doesn't mean that we should trust and that we should use an application because there's all this value already in it, but it helps. It definitely helps when you already know, it's a reputable team that's audited and has battle-tested code. So cool stuff. Tascha, anything else on V2 side? Maybe the migration. Did you want to talk through any of the steps there?
Yeah, actually, one thing before that, I just realized is that these numbers are assuming you take the maximum leverage. So, when you go on to the first steps, second steps, according to how you open the farm positions, you may or may not get this leverage, or you may or may not get this APY, because all of these are assuming that you open at your max leverage, because we don't know who would open at what leverage, right? So we assume the max. But then if you decided to not open at max, or if you decided to open at max, then you would still be able to confirm what you're getting on the final step still. So yeah, this would pretty much help you know what you're getting yourself into.
No, that's really helpful. Yeah, the calculating APY, it's always a pain, because especially with even just prices changing, the alpha APY, at least that's being updated here. But yeah, I think that's really helpful to know. There's a quick question from someone: what if you don't claim the alpha rewards? Do they accumulate? So maybe they're referring to V1, because V2 we're not, V2 just started. But with V1, is there any sort of cutoff there for right now?
No, so it will be accumulated, and pretty much you can claim every Thursday, after 1 p.m. UTC, around that time. And then if you don't claim that week, then it would be compounded, not compounded, but it would be accumulated and available for you to claim the following week.
Very cool. Makes sense. All makes sense. Okay, yeah. So the last step of this then is, if you were in Alpha Homora V1, how do you migrate that position to V2?
Yeah, so we pretty much tell you quite a number of places that we have V2. Subtly, but with flashing colors. So you pretty much can migrate by clicking on on any of these migrate buttons. If you're on farm pools, you can click on here. If you're on earn, you can also click on here. If you're on alpha pools, there's also another button here. So all of these would take you to the migration page on V2, and then it would just show all your positions, whether it's lending, whether it's alpha pools, whether it's farming positions on here, and then you would be able to migrate. So starting first from the alpha pools, you just click that migrate button and then just follow the steps. It would take you to remove liquidity, to supply new into the new pool, and then to stake to earn sushi. One thing to note here, though, is that right now we are not running trading volume mining, which is equivalent to liquidity mining, but not really in a detail level on V2 yet. We're going to run later this month in February. So that's why you would see a little, a pretty big gap in V1 and V2. But then the trading volume mining in V1 is actually ending today. So tomorrow, V2 would get higher APY than V1. And then when we start to run trading volume mining on V2 again, then this APY would go a bit higher than this.
Tascha, by using the migration like UI that you have here, is this any more gas efficient than if I go to V1, open my position or close my position, and then just reopen it here? And I guess, am I saving any money on gas, or is this just a convenience?
Depends. So with IB ETH Alpha, this unfortunately is the same amount of gas. The first step is remove liquidity, and then the second step is supply and then stake. However, for the positions part, this actually helps save some gas in the between. So instead of having to do like 5 or 6 transactions, you would do 2 for the farming positions. For lending, it would be pretty much similar. So you would need to close the position on V1 first, and then supply on V2. So
okay, good. So so lending, or there's only 4 farms that have just opened. I have some in the ETH sushi leverage pool in V1. That's what I was trying to figure out was, I mean, first off, not that any of us can fix it. Gas prices are really high right now. So, that's a whole nother conversation. I would recommend to anyone, if you're like frightened by the gas costs, be patient. I really, gas prices tend to like be very volatile like this, and then they'll come down. So I've been waiting a bit for them to come down. But I wouldn't save myself any money then, Tascha, for using the migration tool. I could just close it out in V1 and then reopen it. Like, I'm trying to think of, if I close it with both tokens, that saves me some swapping transactions at least. If I close it out into all ETH, that's where, reminder to everyone, like some of the magic that happens under the hood here is if you go in with a single token, they're swapping it for you to build that leveraged position with 2 tokens. So I was thinking that might be one way to save some gas costs, but yeah.
Yeah, correct. So we also have the flow here.
Cool.
So you can see that even if you supply 1 token, we will find a way to swap into 2 still, because we need 2 before supplying to liquidity providing pool. So if you don't want to go through slippage, then supplying both would be best.
Yep. There we go. Yeah. That's it. That's the key here. So yeah, if you're migrating, consider migrating with both tokens, especially if you're just going to close it and reopen it versus closing it with Ether. Maybe that's the one step I missed here, Tascha. If I use your migration workflow there, will it recommend that I close my V1 position and receive the 2 tokens, or do I have even an option to do it all in Ether?
you will not have an option to do all in Ether, because that's that would not be great for your position. So that's why we only have one option. So users have to pick.
Good. Okay. Well, so then based on all of that, I'd say from like my fiddling around, I'd tell anyone, if you're going to migrate, use this migration tool. This will dummy proof the workflow of getting into V2. So awesome stuff. Anything else with V2 that you wanted to talk about? I think like there's a number of interest bearing tokens that, like, do we know the next ones that are coming, or is that yet to be announced?
I can tell you now, I mean, which is fine. It's actually IBYFI.
Yeah, there we go. And we have support for that on Zapper, or it's basically there just for when it goes live. So I noticed it in the code. I was like, it looks like we have a few tokens coming. So cool. Yeah, that's exciting. Any other ones, Tascha, that you all can share?
Yeah, so IBDPI V2, IBSX V2, IBSUSD V2, and I can go on and go forth. It's going to be quite a long list, but we're going to slowly support them to make sure that the APY doesn't like significantly drop for the other tokens, and making sure that it slowly spreads the APY across.
No, that's exciting. It's really exciting. Just because it's more lending options, and it's for a product, in this case, leverage liquidity farms. I mean, one of the things that I was tracking in V1 is the demand for it. You know, that there is, I don't know how many people in the world, how many wallets, other than what I see here with active positions in V2, but I know that the utilization of the Ether pool for IB ETH V1 was 90% on average. You know, I could see people were earning between 10 to 20% on Ether. Those were real numbers. Those are not. Yeah, that's normal. That's not. I think a lot of people thought that those were, numbers that would come and go, but at least for now, those are consistent earnings that you can make with IBE. So very cool stuff. Well, other than that, just reminder to everyone, you can track all the IB tokens V2 on your Zapper dashboard. So that's already supported. We'll get these leverage liquidity farms up. Thank you to everyone for being patient. We were going to support V1, and just with this transition to V2, it made more sense to focus on this coming. And man, just congrats. Wow. It's so cool to see the demand in the product right now. And excited for what more you all are going to build. Tascha, anything else that you think folks should know? I mentioned here, like, you can learn more at hamora-v2.alphafinance.io, and of course, make sure they follow you and Alpha Finance Lab.
Yeah, I think just reading through Alpha Hamora V2 would take some time, but I think it's really worth it, because once you know how to use it, then you can pretty much earn a lot from it. There are a number of angles that you can play with it. So I think just spend some time reading the doc. The doc is pretty much, writing in a simple way. So if you still have any questions, just feel free to ping us on Telegram, Twitter, Discord. We're always going to be, live and answer the questions. Yeah.
It's always it's always a surprise to my friends not in this space that I'm like, yeah, you can basically reach anyone in Discord. Like, if you have a question, like, you can basically ask the co-founders, just go into Discord. And I was like, it's pretty incredible how responsive they are. So, well, Tascha, I'm just going to hit the outro video on this in a sec. But yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. So, reminder, please subscribe at tv.zapper.fi. You can watch all nearly 70 episodes now. Reminder, you can track your Alpha Hamora positions at Zapper.fi, and soon the V2 Alpha Hamora leveraged LPs. And then, just thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back on Monday, I think. Monday is our next DeFi class. That's week 7. We'll have to figure out what we're going to cover there. Oh, shoot. Let me just check. There were a few questions here, possibly for you, Tascha. Will there be any documentation in the future released for developers who would like to build on top of the Alpha ecosystem?
Yeah, that's actually coming up. I'm going to make sure that's our priority on the community side.
Excellent. And then, actually, we are ending the show. The one thing we left out there, just some of the obvious risks to consider. There's smart contract bug risk, but Nexus, you were just saying Nexus Mutual is about to offer cover for V2, and there's still smart contract coverage for V1. And then, could you address this? Like, what anything to warn people about that are maybe like newer to this or maybe are less experienced with leverage?
Yeah, so if you are leveraging on, there are pretty much two types of pools, right? Like one pool that is all stable coins. So let's say all the curve pools. So in that case, your risks are a lot lower than the other pools, because if you were to borrow stablecoin to provide liquidity and you farm CRV token, the impermanent loss is not gonna happen as much as if you were to, borrow ETH. So as a result, if you were to go into leverage, you farming on Curve 3 pool right now on Alpha Homora, your risks are pretty minimal. But still, got to make sure that it's not debt ratio of 100%, which can happen when stablecoins are, they lose the peg, right? So that's for the stablecoin based pool. For the other ETH based pool, then making sure that you monitor your positions closely, especially when ETH price goes up. Because if you are borrowing ETH and ETH price goes up, then that means that the value of your borrowing is becoming higher. So that can put your liquidation or your position at liquidation risk.
Got it. And the follow-up to that, I think we already covered this. Any reasons it wouldn't be beneficial? I would remind anyone that if you were looking at a pool and if it shows actually the breakdown on those leveraged LPs, it shows you the benefit, like here's what you would earn. You would have to have like a negative return there. So alpha rewards, yield farming rewards, plus market making fees, those three would have to add up to less than the rate that you're actually borrowing assets to open that leverage pool. So those APYs, I know there's always going to be fluctuations in those based on market prices and how diluted pools become. But it's one of the things I really love about your interface. It's very transparent. You can clearly see it. That's about it. But Tascha, anything else there risk-wise you want to call out? I think we covered it all.
I think one thing is that we make sure to mitigate these risks for the users, and we also add this into the guide. So you can also read this into the guide where we have a section, how Alpha Homora V2 mitigates risk for users. So you can read through all of those and pretty much, and knowing that we're also concerned about this and trying to mitigate the risk as much as possible.
Absolutely, yeah. So yeah, reminder, the available leverage for farming those positions is not like it's not a YOLO approach. You're not being offered 100x leverage to do whatever you want. There actually is some meticulous thinking that goes into calculating like what should be available for those like assets pools like Curve versus the ones that have like Sushi and ETH, which tend to remain correlated, but there is a risk of impermanent loss there. Well, thanks again. Sorry, we almost broke off there, and then I realized all these questions that came up. So everyone, thanks for tuning in. I am going to hit the outro video here in a sec. And Tascha, just thanks so much for your time, and tell the team I said congrats.
Yeah, thank you. Nice being here again.
Awesome. All right. Hey, take care, everyone. We'll see you on Monday. Bye.